Hi creators, so today we're going to do something new with Davinci Resolve 16. I will show you guys how to use multiple timelines. It's a new feature of Davinci Resolve 16 and we'll be able to merge those timelines into one master timeline. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you guys how to put this together. And so we just have some bubble blowing action going on here. And so this is set up by default as timeline 1, and we have a pull down here for all our available timeline selections. So now we have a new feature. We can add new timelines. We go to File up here in the menu, and we click New Timeline. We can also hit the shortcut keys Control N, and it's going to ask us what we want to name this timeline. I'm going to name it Bubbles 2. We can set up the number of video tracks and audio tracks. We can always add more to these later. And we can set up time code if we want to sync things, and we can set up our audio track type. Stereo, we can go Dolby, or we can go adaptive or mono. And so we can say it's an empty timeline. We can use selected mark in, mark out points if we have a clip selected that we want to put into there. We can also use custom settings. And so this allows us to set up our resolution. We can set up our monitoring if we want to deviate from our default of our project. We can also set up our output style here. If we don't want to change any of those things, we can go back to use basic settings, and it's just going to use our default of our project, and we can say create. And so let's go ahead and add another one. This one I'm going to make a little bit different. We just want to go to custom up here, 200 by 200. I'm going to keep the same timeline frame rate, and I'm going to say create with this one. Let's go back here and change this to text. And as you can see now, we're starting to get into, this to me is a little bit like After Effects, where we have multiple timelines and now we can actually utilize these together. And so we can kind of make this modular, our project. It basically allows us to kind of keep things organized. And in the end, we can bring everything into one actual master timeline. So let me go back to this one here. This is our master. And so actually, let's go into timeline 2, into the bubbles. So I'm going to add this clip onto the timeline. And so I just have some like chemistry bubbles coming up there. And on the third timeline, I'm going to add some text, and let's go to the effects library, go to titles, and we're going to just drag some text on there. This is another new feature of Davinci Resolve 16. When you drag these items on top of the actual viewing window, you're going to get this menu option, and so that's really handy. And so now I have a title here, and we're going to say bubbles. So now we can basically do whatever we want in this track. It's just like a normal timeline. We can add different animation. We can change colors, whatever we want to do. So I have now these 3 separate timelines. And so once we get these into place, we're going to open our media pool up here. And so now I have access to these additional timelines. So my second timeline was named Bubbles. And so you can see I can drag that right into our project. I can move it wherever I want. If I want to put that on top to override it. And so that's a transparent video. That's why it's coming in like that. It's not normally going to do that if you have a background. And so here's my text piece. And so I can drag that on. This is my third timeline. And so I'm dragging that right on top. And so we can go into each of these timelines and we can set up whatever we want, as many tracks as we want, audio and video. And that becomes a modular piece to your project. So that becomes very handy for keeping things organized and separating items that can get very complex. We would have had to try to go back into this timeline and add 4 or 5 different tracks that we're animating, and then we're trying to make that a clip and put it onto this master timeline. This thing's going to get just really messy. So those modular pieces of additional timelines are an awesome, cool feature that is now in Davinci Resolve 16. And for you After Effects users, you're probably very familiar with having to be able to put together additional compositions and being able to combine those and make everything modular and creating huge projects out of that. And we have it now in Davinci Resolve 16 in the free version and in the studio version. So please check that out. And thanks for joining me today, guys. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will be producing a few more Davinci Resolve 16 troubleshooting videos coming right out. So if you subscribe, you will get notified that those are out for you to watch and to learn from. So thanks again for watching. Take care.